Welcome to the Louchen Bros podcast. This show is hosted by Brian Louchen.
You're first, dumbass. And I'm Kevin Louchen. We're bros who talk about nerd stuff. I am here with Sir Brian of Alot. And we are here to discuss a classic. It is Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And it is the story of King Arthur and his knights. They embark on a quest to retrieve the Holy Grail. It is a very tale as old as time, and it's just a kind of a British satire way of explaining it, basically. I think if you really get into how this is done, look, British comedy is not for everyone, okay? You have to really understand, comedy is not a universal thing. Comedy is universal as in the idea of it and what it means, but everybody's comedy style is not the same. And if you are not into British comedy right from the get-go, you aren't going to like this. And this is, of course, back, I do believe it's 1975, so this is old comedy. Once again, not for everyone as far as that goes. Just to go, start that off, because super tongue-in-cheek, kind of very dry humor, and it is what it is as far as that goes.
Oh, I thought the tone of this movie was absolutely hilarious and still holds up to this day, 51 years later.
Yeah, I think the tone is exactly what it's meant to be. It is exactly done how it should be. I think it is still relevant and holds up, but once again, it might not be for everyone, and I think that's just the point of it. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, you can't take this movie too seriously, right?
You're not supposed to. I hope you don't,
I mean, they had so many different things. Funny-ass subtitles. Even in it said it was directed by a bunch of llamas, like 40 different types of llamas.
They had to fire but didn't fire people, and had to fire them that didn't fire them. And it's, definitely in the intro.
As far as they had sound effects of coconuts clacking together.
That was
a horse.
That was one of my two favorite things, is they didn't have horses, but the characters pretended to ride the horses, and to give the sound effect, the person following them would take coconuts and literally clap. That I thought was one of the best fucking things. And once again, it might not have been one of those laugh out loud moments, but the irony and the funny nature of it, not to mention keeping the cost down, which is like, hey, right, for production value. I thought that was fucking hilarious.
Yeah, it was so cheesy. It was great.
It was definitely meant to be. And so before we get a little further, talk a little bit with the cast, but I always thought Monty Python was a person. I did. I thought it was a person. It is not. Are you aware of that?
So isn't he the director or like twin? Okay, yeah.
No, Monty Python is an acting trope. They're a comedy trope. So it's a group of actors. And I didn't know that. I thought it was probably like a person or a person's book or something like that. It was their interpretation. No, it is, but it's not a person. It's a group of people. They are an older version of what, if you are familiar, the group Broken Lizard. Do you know who Broken Lizard is?
No, I do not.
Broken Lizard is the group of people that did the movie Super Troopers and the group behind there. So it is a group of actors that usually do things together. It's not an individual. So Monty Python is that. It is the group of people that do that. So I know we'll get into characters and stuff a little bit later, but I needed to cover that because once I actually figured out, I'm like, who the fuck is Monty Python? Like James Bond's character is it's all written by the one person from like decades ago. I can't remember his name at the moment. Because there's an actual writer that wrote James Bond. This is an acting group, and I did not know that.
I did not know that either.
So it was actually pretty interesting to know. Like, that's probably been going on for ages, but the only known one I know is that one. There is another like current acting group that I know of that does something like that, and I forget their name, but they had a TV show just like Monty Python had a TV show before they started doing movies and other things. Okay. Broken Lizard, I don't know if they did or not, but
is Adam Sandler and all his friends, is that considered?
I wouldn't consider a group because they don't go by a name, and they all had their names first. Now, there's a lot of relations because if you think about like Saturday Night Live and how a lot of them started, but they don't actually have like a group where they're in everything together. You know what I mean? Yeah, they do some acting stuff together, but there's a current TV show or relatively. Oh God, I can't believe I can't remember this. Where you got Sal Vulcano and a couple of his buddies, and they would just go out and do like kind of skits.
Impractical Jokers?
Yeah, Impractical Jokers. So they have an acting group too, but it's not, I think somebody, the one guy that goes, Larry, he's not in it right now. But I know they were doing a trio, they were touring and even doing a show and having special guests because, I'm terrible with the names.
Whose Line is it anyway considered a comedy trope, then?
It would be if you're getting technical, I would say no because it's not the same people every time. But in a way, it's the idea of it. So I don't know if trope tip has to be the same people or not. I'm not some sort of like I'm not sure if I'm the verbologist, if that's even a word. Like I'm not sure I'm the person that can truly define that. I think because Impractical Jokers have had different hosts, they've had different stars. Although they have the most common, the best one. Like Ryan Stiles and Colin Mockery. Those are two of the best ones. Greg Proof has been on there a lot. He's awesome, but he's also not always with them. Wayne Brady, newer, but he's become such an icon with the show. I don't know, but it was just such an interesting thing to me, like, because I was like, oh my God, it was like a weird epiphany. I really felt the need to say, yes, the Monty Python group, because what happened is, I've always associated Monty Python with one person, and I'll cover that here shortly. So I didn't know that, but so yes, this is an acting troupe, and I thought that was really interesting, because it was, I don't know if they're the first, most famous one or not, considering they're in the 70s. I think they started, their show was from 69 to 74, and then they did movies and stuff like that. But anyways.
There were so many good comedic scenes in this actual movie. Like, I remember the Black Knight fighting the Green Knight at one point, and then the Black Knight gets his arm cut off, and he's still trying to fight, and then he gets his other arm cut off.
How about we follow it chronically, right? Let's follow it chronically and go into that, right? So, it starts out.
To talk, so let's go.
No, well, you can do it too. I like to follow the order because it kind of makes sense with the story, right? So, you got King Arthur riding a horse through stuff, and that's when you find out about the coconuts. That was funny. But then he ends up running into the castle, and that's when he sees the people are even calling it out. So sometimes you just do something like the coconuts or the horse sound, right? And like so you were like, oh, they're gonna ignore it. No, the first thing to do is fucking call out, how'd you get coconuts and stuff like that. Like they're kind of poking fun at themselves as well as making a whole scene about talking about swallows with a European versus. I was like it's not, to everyone, it's not funny per se directly, like I said, where it catches you by surprise, but it's just the irony of talking about that in the middle of a movie. It's like, why would you be talking about that in the middle of a movie? Yeah, I thought that was fucking hilarious.
And they even talk about like mathematics and stuff.
Yes, like they take it way beyond what it should be. I thought it was good. And then some of the most key things is when Arthur runs into the Black Knight, which you were alluding to. He gets his arm cut off and he says, "'Tis but a scratch." And it's like, yes, that is not what you should say. He goes on with some other lines as he starts losing his other arm and his legs. He says lines along the lines of, "I've had worse and it's just a flesh wound."
And he's literally has
no arms or legs, and he's like trying to attack.
I can still bite you.
Yes. So you see the ridiculous nature of it, and I definitely appreciate that for sure. It was definitely enjoyable, and then they kind of go on, and at a point here, what happens is Arthur finds that. God ends up talking to him, and he finds that he needs to find the Holy Grail. So it kind of goes on a recruiting route and whatnot. Now, I didn't expect this to happen, but they added in a whole bunch of like cartoons, cutscenes.
I fucking love them. Even 50 fucking years ago, to me, it still fucking holds up. Even it was so bad, with even the God was like. One animation over the other and the mouth was moving. Yes. It still didn't look half bad to me anyway. Like, is it top tier 4K like visual effects?
Yes, it
like
is.
In today's? No. But was it good enough then? Even the cartoons? To me, just the satire of it all was just fucking brilliant.
Yeah, I think that was, once again, it was the point. But at the same time, the cartoons gave them some creative liberties with ideas. It gave them the element of, not having to put so much into special effects. It gave them the ability to, budget-wise, but it also, like, as you see later on, like, there's some things they couldn't have done very easily with modern, at that time in the 70s, modern special effects, so it was just easier and simpler. Just make a fucking cartoon out of it, I think.
I think it also helped break up the scenes a little bit, but also tie them in as well, too. Like
yes, transition. It transitioned really well, and I think that was great as far as that goes. Literally, there was a moment where it has intermission, which I thought was funny.
Yeah, even there was a point where they met a couple, like, peasants or whatever, and they were explaining, like, the class system in government. I remember it was
that was earlier on. Yeah, like
wait, are
capitalism
you a dictatorship?
versus.
Who are you, King Arthur?
Yeah, like they got ridiculous with some of the lines, which was enjoyable. Then he goes and meets the French people that are in the one castle, and this is the quote which I really loved. I fought in your I can't even do a French. Parlez-vous français? I fought in your direction. Your mother was a hamster, and your father smelt of elderberries. And it's like just some of the ridiculous stuff they were just saying. I thought was pretty entertaining. And their depiction, this is, I believe, they're all English, or at least from the UK. So the group here. I think it's a way of almost mimicking, but kind of making fun of the French to a degree, which they've always had a history. So
there was some other funny moments too, like the priests were like and saying whatever,
hitting themselves in the head,
hitting themselves in the head with boards, and I was like, what is that? And then the guards were actually throwing like cows and other barnyard
yes,
animals.
The French, they were literally throwing, instead of just throwing like vegetables, they were throwing fucking goats and fucking cows. I'm like, what the fuck?
Great. I might actually steal that.
But they also had, like, the one funny thing is they had, instead of the Trojan horse, they did the Trojan bunny, which was ridiculous. But even then, they're like, they're like, everybody go into there and then we'll sneak in. Yet everybody was outside of the fucking rabbit. It was like, yeah, this was a total fucking nightmare. So just the way it was used was pretty entertaining. How they used their, kind of poking fun at history and probably everybody's heritage a little bit. I thought it was fun.
I liked when they went to the female, all female.
Oh, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Don't you worry.
Okay, I'm spoiling too soon.
You have the three-headed giant Sir Robin is going on there, and he's getting fucking heckled by his own fucking group that he's with.
Is that the one where we want the shrubbery?
No, not quite. Yeah, it gets to that. Sir Galahad, he's the one that goes to the castle Anthrax, which I don't know if there's a meaning behind that or not.
But there actually might be.
That was the one that was full of women. And, like, they weren't, like, old lady nuns. They were all, like, there was, like, 40 of them that were
all beautiful. And some of the names were Midget, Crapper, Zoot, Dr. Piglet, Dr. Winston, Zoot's identical twin sister Dingo. At one point they said, you need to give us spanking and then oral sex. I was like, what?
You have to punish us.
Yeah,
you have to punish us. So it was kind of ridiculous.
And then, like, Lancelot goes in there and kills, like, 30 people.
Well, no, that's later. That's not the same thing. Lancelot goes in there and saves Galahad. And Galahad's like, no, I can stay. It's okay. I can stay. He's like, no, we have to go. And then Galahad says, I bet you're gay. So I was like, no, I'm not.
That's right. Yeah, when he tried to get him to leave. That's right. That was a different castle. They had so many damn castles in this. It was great.
Yeah, well, so I think if I recall looking, it was all one castle. They either used
they filmed different sides of it.
Different sides,
visuals
or they even did they did miniatures with a background kind of thing. But then then you get to the point where there's a, quote, damsel in distress, which is really just whiny bitch-ass prince. And he's like, I don't want to marry her. And he shoots this arrow, and Sir Lancelot's thinking it's probably an actual damsel. He goes to save her, he just starts stabbing the shit out of everybody, killing it. And then he gets
killed, like, the townspeople.
Like, so many fucking people.
The guards, and then basically the king comes back out, and he's like, well, we should celebrate him. And then they're like, he killed my auntie!
Yeah.
He killed my brother!
And he killed the fiance's fucking father. And he's like, oh, wait, he might be alive. He's doing better. And then he gets the king's like, hey, take him out. And then he's like, oh, never mind, he died.
And then he's like, my son Herbert has fallen to his death.
Yes. And then he pushes him over the fucking thing. Like, it was intentionally meant to do that as far as that goes. I mean, there's some other... wait, I lost my spot. Okay, yeah. And then... So they're on this, kind of showing the different perspectives of, like, one night's travels and stuff like that, because they split up to look for the Holy Grail. But then they come back together, and they run into this one character. I actually didn't write his name down. I'll
hear you.
Dude, a lot of the same actors played the same character.
I know, I love that. I saw that.
Was it the Bridge Keeper? Is that who it was? Right? Or maybe it was something else. But he basically no, that's after the Killer Rabbit. I'm at the Killer Rabbit. So there's a Killer Rabbit and the one it's Tim. That's who it was. It's Tim the Enchanter. He's like, I'm an enchanter. And he's like, yeah, what's your name? And some people call me Tim. And I just, like, the way they presented some of the information was obviously silly.
But even before that, you had the Knights of Knee, and they wanted a shrubbery.
Oh, yeah, I did forget that one. Yeah, go ahead. You cover the Knights of Knee.
They had these Knights of Knee, and they're like, we want a shrubbery! And they go back to this town and find Roger the Shrubber. And, yeah, they bring back a shrubbery. And they're like, we're no longer the Knights of Knee. We are... Hold on. I wrote this down. Yeah. And they kept on doing that. And I was like, what the hell? Let's see. Where is it at? Oh, we are now the knights who say, Iki, 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 Patang, Zoing, Boings. I don't even know the rest of this.
Yeah, like they were supposed to be this feared Knights of Knee, and then they were just kind of ridiculous because they kept saying the word it, and then they were like freaking out and they couldn't hear it and stuff like that. Like, no. And then that's when I think they end up going and meeting the Enchanter and then the Killer Rabbit. The Enchanter was just fucking throwing around fucking like explosions left and right, and they were like a fireworks show. I literally think there was one of them that had a fireworks actually that came out.
There was. So they had to go to the Bridge of Death, I think, first.
Yeah, but to get there, they had to go through the Killer Rabbit. Then
no, because that was the cave.
Am I mixing this up?
Cayer Bog. So they had to go through the Bridge of Death with that old man, where they had to answer 3 questions.
Yes.
And he would ask them to name their quest, and then sometimes their favorite color. Sometimes it was
the capital of Istria or something.
Yeah, and then they got fucking yeeted, and then King Arthur asked the actual bridge keeper a question.
Yeah, he's like, what's the time does it take to travel that the what are the birds, the swallows take to do? And he's like, is that the European or is that the African? Which that reoccurring thing with the swallow like happened 2 other times. That was probably one of my favorite things. And then the bridge keeper's like, I don't know, and he gets fucking yeeted into the pit of death.
Yes.
So that was pretty fucking good. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, the Gorge of Eternal Peril.
Yes.
And then they finally make it to the cave of Caer Banog, where they had a little rabbit.
That's where I'm at.
And the Tim the Enchanter's telling them this is a dangerous rabbit, and all the knights were like, this rabbit ain't shit. And
no. Let me quote you. What he do? Nibble on your bum?
There were so many good quotes. I couldn't keep up with all of them.
Yeah, that one really made me laugh. A good one. But no, then of course somebody goes over there. I'll take care of this, and this thing starts fucking going for jugulars left and right.
Dude, that rabbit fucked up like half their fucking squad.
So then they regrouped, and then that's when they got, this is ridiculous, they got the holy hand grenade, which is fucking dumb
the holy hand
funny.
Grenade was amazing because it was a grenade with a cross on it.
Yes.
And then they say basically like a prayer, and the one priest repeats himself like 17 different ways, counting to 3.
Yes.
And then King Arthur's like 1, 2, 5, and they're like, no,
over
that's
and over.
Yeah, it was so like, it's one of those movies that is just so dumb and cheesy, but you can't help to laugh at the stupidity of all the stuff during the movie. That's how I kind of took a lot
that's
of
the
these
take
things.
That's the take of what it wants. That's their goal is to be like that, and I think they were nailing it superbly. Then they finally get into this cave where they find these texts, which they're saying it's Aramaic, and then it kind of goes away. But then the one guy I quoted, he goes, no, oh, as in surprise and alarm, because he goes, oh, and they're like, no, that's how it ended with the text. I thought that was
the cave of Arg.
Yeah,
the castle of Arg.
Yeah, and so then he's like, oh, and he's like, no, oh, and surprise. So that had me going good. Now, meanwhile, all right, so circle back. Earlier on, there's a historian that he is telling about this story, it seems like, and then he is slain by a guy that just does a drive-by slashing of his throat on a horse, but he's dressed as a knight. And so in the process, every so often you find that somebody is getting looked into as far as the slashing. Even though that's modern times, the medieval story is still happening, right? So there's a few cutscenes, and that comes into play later on. So it gets to the point where once they ended up crossing the bridge, they ended up running into Lancelot went first, and he was getting booked by the fucking police, which is fucking hilarious. While Lancelot was it Galahad and Arthur are checking on the they're checking at the castle where they found where the Grail should be, and the French are there again.
Yeah, they had to take a serpent boat across the lake. And yeah, the French guards were dropping puke and like manure and shit on them. And the French guards through the whole movie, all the fucking shit they were saying was hilarious. Because like as Kevin kind of said earlier, I don't want to talk to you no more, you empty-headed animal, food through wiper. I fart in your general direction. Your mother was a hamster and your father smelled like elderberries. just some of these lines they were saying was hilarious. Like another one, French Shoulder said, "I weigh my private parts at your auntie's, you cheesy lot of secondhand electric donkey bottom biters."
Like just the most random kind of insults, kind of just throwing them at there, and just kind of an element that it did add for kind of silliness that was really what they were going for, and I think they did very well. But here's where it gets weird. So they get shit dumped on them, and then they kind of cross this moat, like water area. It's low tide or whatever. I don't know what the hell it was. And then all of a sudden they have a fucking army. They host them, and they go ahead and take over. And then all of a sudden the police show up and arrest fucking Arthur and I think it's Galahad. So here's the problem I have. Although it's funny because they're mixing the modern with medieval, I looked into this and I was like, I don't think Arthur is the one that killed the historian. I went back and I looked, and there's a knight with similar fashion, but he's got a helmet on, and he slashes the historian. Which you don't ever get a reason why, but I don't think you need a reason why. It just fucking happened. But that's the only time there's an actual horse in the fucking film. Everything else is just them fucking clapping with fucking coconuts. And so I was just like it kind of threw me for a loop of, I know it's supposed to be ridiculous, but I'm also like, because after the arrest, what happens is that the screen just goes fucking black.
It goes black
for
like 10 to 15 minutes.
No. It's not 10 to 15 minutes.
It's like 10 minutes with music.
It is X amount of minutes for sure. It plays this song on repeat. I had it going for like 3 minutes. I'm like, what the fuck is happening? It was like 10 minutes. No credits. Nothing's playing.
They had the credits in the beginning of the film, though.
Well, yeah, but normally you put them in the beginning and the end.
Yeah. But no, it was legit like 10 minutes of a black screen because I looked at.
It's fucking crazy.
I watched it. It was such a wild ending, and I was circling back to looking at my quotes and stuff like that when they met the Knights of Ni, and after they bring them the shrubbery, they wanted a second thing to complete. And they said, "You must cut down the mightiest tree in the forest with a herring."
Yes, and like, how the fuck is that?
And then it circles around where someone says the word "it," and apparently that's like their kryptonite. The word "it." Yes. You're like, "Stop saying it."
That's what they say. They're no longer the Knights of Ni. I mean, there's a lot of silliness going on here. And like I said, it's not for everyone. If I'm going to be honest, some of the humor hit, some of it did not. I rarely found myself actively laughing out loud. But that's how it can be for me with British humor. I did watch the original Whose Line Is It Anyways, which is, although there's some Americans and Canadians that are on the show, the show is geared more in a British comedy aspect. That you get some of the original and even some stand up. If you've ever watched British stand up, just listen to the crowd and how they react and how they are. It is different. And so I find the humor like it is, like it's mostly tongue-in-cheek satire kind of. So it's funny, but it's a funny idea versus a more funny laugh out loud. I find that to be mostly, I did not laugh actually out loud a lot. In fact, some of it I just didn't find it as actual funny as I thought. With that said, is I still think the comedy style holds up as far as watching it again. This is the first time I actually remember watching it in its entirety. I don't know that I ever actually did watch it. I just remember seeing clips of stuff throughout my whole life.
I've heard about it, but never actually watched it.
So it's kind of like it was a unique experience for me, and I know of Monty Pythons, which I learned as a group, but it was like I watched it and I was like, okay, I am glad, like, this is a unique story. This is fun. This is a good take. But I think the one part I was honestly mostly disappointed with, and just, it kind of spoiled it for me, was the ending. It's not that they did what they did. I don't have a huge issue with them arresting with the cop. I thought that was actually kind of funny. I just think it wasn't because the knight didn't look like Arthur originally, and they're arresting not only Arthur, they arrested Lancelot and Galahad for a murder. It's like, it just feels like it was like, I don't want to say, it just fell short. Like, ending abruptly is okay. Just the details before that were just still like not as well done. So I think the story, in essence, up until that point was actually quite great. As we said, with the fucking the art was awesome. Like the monster in the cave, you never saw. It was just art once again, because doing a monster in a fucking cave scene would be fucking horrible to the fucking budget. But just the way they did it, it had like fucking 15 eyes and shit, looked like a weird dragon or something. I got to the point for me, like, I just, that kind of really just left me bummed with the ending. I'm like, that's how they ended. I think it was funny how they cut it abruptly, how they had the just music go on for fucking ever. I thought that was fun. It just felt like extremely incomplete, because it didn't make sense of how they tied in the original historic stuff. And that's a hard thing, is because something like this doesn't have to make sense. That's the point. Like, that's why you get it. But there is some senses to it, and then they just make it to a point where not even discuss it anymore. And I guess I would have liked them just saying and acknowledging it, because they do acknowledge the fourth wall, it seems like, at a time or two, and then here they just, nope, that's it.
Do you know there was another ending potentially proposed? So, in a 2017 interview at Indiana University in Bloomington, John Cleese expressed disappointment with the film's conclusion. The ending annoys me the most. It ends in the way it does because we couldn't think of it any other way. However, scripts for the film and notebooks that are among Michael Pallin's private archive, which he donated to the British Library in 2017, do document at least one alternative ending that the trope considered. A battle between the Knights of Camelot, the French, and the Killer Rabbit of Canterbury. Due to the film's small production budget, that idea for a much pricier option was discarded by the Pythons in favor of the ending with King Arthur getting arrested, which Palin deemed cheaper and funnier. So
it's kind of funny, but like I said, at the same time, it I don't know. It just falls flat. It didn't have
that climax.
Yeah, it feels disappointing in a sense. Like, you can have an abrupt ending, but it doesn't feel like it didn't feel like the conclusion concluded. You know what I mean? Like, you could have it where it concluded and then end abruptly, and you don't see the aftermath. But I just feel like if the conclusion is he just gets arrested, and it's like, to me, didn't even look like Arthur. It would have been better if he rode by with a guy behind him and they're just clapping, and then he did it. That would be funnier, because that would be like more realistic. But then once again, it's like Arthur didn't just kill rando historians for any reason. At least, so it's like, it was kind of like, that's why I'm like, that doesn't feel like that's what King Arthur would do. I know that sounds dumb, but so I don't know. It's kind of like the details. Although they played around with these concepts and ridiculousness of it, which is what it's supposed to, that ending just didn't. It fell flat for me, and it was disappointing. So, but up until that point, I love the story and how they go off on their different ends. They ran into the 3-headed monster, which was, they talked themselves so much. Robin just fucking went on his merry way. I thought that shit was funny.
And the monster or frog with like 10,000 eyes or whatever was pretty.
Yeah, that cave monster thing.
And I definitely agree with you with the ending, Kev, as far as leaving on a cliffhanger. But on the other aspect, I don't think I've ever seen any other movie that ended it in the way it did, which definitely made it unique.
Yeah, oh yes.
For sure.
Yes, not quite like that. I've seen abrupt endings, but it was, I guess, it was the extended fucking music, the black screen, the medieval person gets arrested by modern cops. Like, there's certain elements where it was kind of just wild, and you didn't have to explain it. But I feel like if they could have explained it a little bit more or added certain details at certain spots to what was happening, like it would have been I think it would have hit a little bit better. So I don't know that you needed to have an all-out war. I think the idea of like a third. I don't know that I thought the bunny died. That's why I didn't love that idea.
Well, it got blown up by the grenade.
Yeah, so
the holy hand grenade.
So yeah, the holy hand grenade. So if you had like the French, if you had like the Camelot, the knights, and then maybe another person, and then just fighting stupidly to finish it, and then abruptly just stop. That would be a little better. It just, I don't know. It just something about it just felt.
But then the tie-in of the historian kind of wouldn't have made sense. So they would
maybe the cops are the third persons that are fighting with the French. That might have been ridiculous. Like they're trying to arrest and they don't know who to arrest. Just fucking arrest everybody, but they're fighting. I don't know. Like obviously we're just spitballing, but I feel like it just it left me missing something. I just felt incomplete, and so that's kind of how I felt. So like I said, it's notable that they were able to do something like this that is relatively kind of timeless, in a sense. I just like I said, it's British comedy, so it doesn't always resonate to me, but there's peaks and valleys. That's how I'd say, at least for me, with the enjoyment as far as that goes.
All right, you want to rate this, Kev?
Let's go ahead and rate it.
I'm going definitely mainly thumbs up for me.
Slightly positive, definitely. It's a solid story. Just that ending is kind of rough. That it really brings it down for me. So, but okay, moving forward, we're gonna get into the cast of characters. And as I started earlier saying that it's basically ran by the Monty Python group, which is an acting troupe. And of that group, it's Graham Chapman, John Cleese, Terry Gilliam, Eric Idle, Terry Jones, Michael Palin. And I could be saying these names wrong, but that's the actual group. There are other actors, of course, and actresses as well, but that's the group. So that's really the only names I wrote down. And obviously it's their story, it's their film, so the fact that they use them as the actors, it kind of makes sense is how they did it. I thought it was kind of clever how they were able to multi-purpose some people for certain roles, like because they started going off on different groups. Like if you had Lancelot being an actor, then you might use like Arthur as a character and so on and so forth. So that's how they were able to multi-purpose people for roles, which was obviously for a comedy group, which you kind of want to do, and it makes a lot of sense.
Saves a lot of money on budget.
That that's the case. And then of course the characters and so forth. John Graham, Graham Chapman was Arthur. He was the middle of the giants. He was the voice of God. These are just some of the roles. They had others. John Cleese was Lancelot, the Black Knight, the French Taunter, Tim the Enchanter. You can recognize their faces too. Terry Gilliam was Arthur's Patsy, the sooth-sounding bridge keeper, the Green Knight. Eric Idle's Sir Robin. He was Lancelot Squire. Roger the Shrubber. Terry Jones was Bedivere, the Wise.
Yep.
Prince Herbert, left head of the giant. Michael Palin, Galahad, leader of the Knights Who Say Knee. Lord Swamp. Is that
Lord of the Swamp Castle?
Yes, Lord of the Swamp Castle, and right head of the giant. Like that. Once again, I think I don't know that I could comment that they should have had one person do a different role than the other. Personally, because I don't know that I feel like I know them well enough that it'd be like, oh, this person would have been better, or this was a bad casting. This was a movie designed and made for them, so I think it's the perfect casting. And any supporting roles, I think, were fine, because even if they were bad, it probably would have added to the satire aspect of it. Exactly. So it was probably perfect in that regard. If they were good, then it would just match in. So it's kind of hard to be really upset about the casting, in my opinion. I don't know if you feel any different. I agree with that
100%. Like, I didn't know, like I said to you educating me about them being a comedy troupe, but I think they could have slotted anywhere in there. I don't think anyone would have been too good or bad because that's the kind of the flavor they were going for the movie. So
yeah,
it would have been covered up so easily.
Exactly. It's comedy and it was meant to be bad. So in that regard, any bad would have been good, which is kind of the point. What I was alluding to earlier when I first started, I thought of all of this group, there is one person that stands out the most to me. I feel like because I've seen him in other movies and maybe his face is the most distinguishable amongst the others, that is John Cleese. He's the one that played Lancelot. I've seen him in other roles. I almost want to even say he was Q in a James Bond movie at one time. So I feel like that's the case. I didn't look it up, but I've seen him in other movies, and I recognize his face compared to the others, and he's just so more distinguished looking. He's, I think, even taller than the rest. I thought he was Monty Python. So that's why I was like, am I right? Am I doing this right? So that's why I looked into it and checked, and no, that they are an acting group. And so, yeah, he's always stood out the most to me.
He was Q, Kevin, and R.
Okay, I don't remember who the fuck R is, but I remember Q. So, but like I said, so I've always kind of gravitated towards him the most. I was looking for his character most, and to be honest with you, he might have played some of the best of the characters. To be honest with you, or maybe his just portrayal. Maybe I'm biased and just liked his version. So I always appreciate him, but I like that they're a group as far as that goes. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that note.
I didn't know he was obviously in that. I know there is other Monty Python films, which I do want to watch at some point. Like, I've always heard about The Life of Brian, never watched it.
Because you're living it, right? Hey,
but yeah, I do want to definitely watch those films at some point. But yeah, I think Lancelot, just from the history and knowledge I have of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, those would have been the two characters that kind of I followed the most. I think the other knights were just ridiculous, the names and stuff like that. I don't know if they were actually on the Round Table or if they were just made up.
You should start Sir Brian and the Knights of the Trapezoid Table.
Oh my god. Oh, Lord. All right, are we going to rate this guy?
Yeah, let's go ahead and let the casting. I don't know how you don't go thumbs up because it's for me, that's where I'm at. Like, it was made for them. So I guess if you didn't like it, then maybe that ties into it. But yeah, as far as that goes. Moving forward, we're going to get into like the music and sound effects. Obviously, the cropping of the coconuts sounded delightful. No, that's legit. But I think one of the underrated things a little bit is and this is coming from me, so mind you, they had some original songs in it. None of them really kind of stood out a lot to me. Other than one, I thought when the knights were singing in Camelot and Arthur was talking about them because they were saying they're a little silly.
Oh, I have it here, guys.
Knights of the Round Table, I believe, is the song. I thought that was probably the best one.
Knights of the Round Table. We dance when we're able. We do routines and chorus scenes with footwork impeccable. We dine well here in Camelot. We eat ham and jam and Spamalot.
I remember Spamalot.
We're Knights of the Round Table. Our shows are formidable, but many times we're given rhymes that are quite unsingable. We're opera mad in Camelot. We sing from the diaphragm a lot. In war, we're tough and able. Quite fatigable. Between our quests, we sequin vests and impersonate Clark Gable. It's a busy life in Camelot.
So I, as I've mentioned before, I'm a fan of creating your own music because it's not easy. It's an extra element to add in. It's a lot easier just to take a song and plug it in. So to add that element in, although I'm not a fan of musicals, which I'm not, like comedy songs entered in there are fine, and they actually do usually spice it up even better. So this was one where it really jumped out to me. There were others, but that was, I think, my favorite one. I think technically another song, but I didn't look at it as a song, was I think it's a bard that was following Robin, and he was trolling and talking shit the whole time, and I fucking loved it. Yeah, he's just saying, "Yeah, you're fucking
shut up, stop."
Yeah, I think that was probably the other favorite like song aspect, because he was like playing it on like a little like banjo like guitar or something like that, and playing it, and yeah, I was enjoying a lot. I think once it becomes into more of a comedy aspect, the singing is like totally, it almost adds an extra punch. Maybe it's the Weird Al in me that we've enjoyed so much growing up, but so yeah, I think as far as that goes, yeah, it was overall pretty entertaining in that.
I agree with the sound effects being good. I did enjoy the actual theme song in the beginning, and they had plenty of trumpets and medieval soundtracks that kind of fit the theme of the entire movie, so I didn't have any issues with the sound of music at all.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and rate those, Bitcoin.
Thumbs up.
I'm going mid thumbs up. Yeah. Positive,
slightly positive.
Angled positive up. All right, so next is special effects, or maybe lack thereof is what we should do. But that is actually one of the cases, because of the type of movie and style. The lack thereof, or the worse it is, in a sense, it's ironic because the better it is. Like, i.e., no horses. Even when they, at one point, when Arthur, later on, and he has all of his knights, he says, dismount, and all of them on their fake horses pretend to get off. Like, that was very, very enjoyable for me. And it's not really a special effects, but it's the acting that alludes to the special effects.
I mean, it is a visual.
So I would put it in that regard as awesome. I think even though you could tell they looked kind of bad, I still think it was good when they were throwing the fucking animals and shit. The French were. That was so good. Like, some of it just looked like carpet that was like a carpet of an animal thrown, but it didn't matter. It was just the idea you could tell things were being thrown. That was one of my favorite ones. What about you? I got more, but you want to throw in some.
I'll touch upon some aspects of the visuals and wardrobe and editing. So, Monty Python and the Holy Grail was shot mostly on location in Scotland, particularly around Doune Castle and Glencoe and privately owned Castle Stalker. The many castles seen throughout the film were mainly either Doune Castle shot from different angles or hanging miniatures, as you kind of mentioned to earlier, Kev. There are several exceptions on this. The first exterior shot of the castle at the beginning of the film is Kidwelly Castle in South Wales, and the single exterior shot of the Swamp Castle during Tale of Sir Lancelot is Bodiam Castle in East Sussex. All subsequent shots of the exterior and interior were filmed in Doune Castle. At the Tale of Sir Robin, there's a slow camera zoom and rocky scenery that is a voiceover of the dark forest of Ewing. This is actually a still photograph of the gorge of Mount Buffalo National Park in Australia. Doyle stated that with Hot Dog Magazine, it was a still image with candles underneath the frame to give it a heat haze. This was a low-cost method of achieving a convincing location effect. There was also challenges shooting and editing Cathal Anthrax because he felt the most comedic take being unused because of the coat being... The anachronistic coat was visible in it. Castle Anthrax was also shot one part of Doune where the costume designers advise against nudity, dressing the girls in shifts. So yeah, that was the 40 young women, attractive women place. The scene with the knights fight the rabbit of Canterbog was filmed at Tom Nadashan Mine. A real white rabbit was used, switched with puppets for its killings. The bite effects the bite effects were done with special puppetry and special effects technician John Horton. According to Gilliam, the rabbit was covered with red liquid to simulate blood, which they had a hard time getting it off the coat.
Yeah, I was going to say the rabbit at one point was like, fuck is this shit on me? It looked like towards the end. I like, as we mentioned, the illustrations, the cartoons. They were like super clever, super creative, super interesting, super weird too at times. I liked the cutting off of limbs of the Black Knight. That was pretty entertaining.
Yes.
It like wasn't too unrealistic, but was definitely unrealistic. It kind of cheesy, but it was good. The explosions when Tim the Enchanter's just fucking making everything explode, like with his fucking thing, like literally shooting rockets out of his staff. I thought that was pretty entertaining. And so yeah, I think the special effects. This is where, when you're making this style of movie, you have so much leeway, because if you want it to look good and it looks good, that's awesome. If you want it to look good and it's done so bad and you're like, oh fuck, it actually can be still good because it's a satire. It's kind of meant to be bad and poke fun of things. So you really, whether you make it good or bad, it can be, and more likely will be, good and affect the movie well. I don't think that you can say no matter what you do is going to work out great. It's just whether or not it's a funny idea in general. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can't take this film too seriously, and I think that's the beauty of it. When Kevin kind of talked about the real horses, using the horse clapping of the coconuts, and that was kind of based off of the old-fashioned sound effects with the radio shows, with the hooves clattering, which, again, miming that horse riding just throughout the entire film.
Yes, the entire film.
Hilarious.
It was one of my favorite aspects. Like, it was fully committed. I thought it was great. That, like I said, that and the swallow bit, like that really fucking had me down. Because like you thought it was over, even though they talked about it like twice before that, and then all of a sudden, fucking at the end with the bridge guy, he's like, I don't know, like that shit. That one had me actually laugh out loud. So I didn't have a lot of them, but that was definitely one of them.
And the giant Trojan rabbit we talked about.
Yes.
And then they were outside of it, so their whole plan was like
exactly
no sense. And that was the thing. A lot of the things in this didn't make sense, but you had, for anyone out there, even if you didn't enjoy this humor, you have to find at least one part in this movie that just makes you chuckle, just like being so silly and ridiculous to me. I
agree. So
that's all I had.
With special effects and visuals, you ready to do this? That's because I think I'm good with this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go slightly positive.
I'm gonna go. You know what? I'm gonna go just thumbs up because I like the bad and I like the good. So that's how that one worked. So, and then moving forward here, we got rewatchability and emotional connection to this film. I mean, as a person who grew up that loved Knights, that loves humor and being of a lot of UK ancestry, and like this one is it is premises and details. It's there for me. But to be honest with you, I feel like the humor it didn't resonate as much as I think it would have if maybe I watched it when I was younger. I still think it's kind of funny, but it's also like, it's like the equivalent of trying to watch an old school horror movie. So if you try to watch like an original Friday the 13th or something like that, or you watch it maybe because there's a novelty of it, but it doesn't resonate the same way as something like even sort of more modern Saw, even though it's not scary, or some of these other like jump scare movies. What's the Nun movie series? I don't remember, but either way, I think it's progressed. Even British humor, right? As dry as it is, it's progressed to the point where, and satire does, it's further along. So when you go watch it in the back, even if you can have the right mindset to enjoy it, I just don't know that it ultimately it doesn't have a special place in my heart personally. So I'm not inclined to feel the need to watch this one again. I would be okay to try to check out some of the other stuffs if it came down to it, because I do find them relatively as a group entertaining, but I don't know that I'm absolutely in love with it. So it probably one of the things where I want to experiment with some of their other stuff, and then probably after a few things I'd know whether or not overall do I enjoy it. Yeah, probably, but probably not enough that I'm going to go out of my way for things, if that makes sense.
So you kind of gave me a thought as you were talking about that, Kevin. Is this one of the things where you have to kind of appreciate it for its time? Because even when we talked about Enter the Dragon, you just talked about old school horror films. Is it one of those things for 51 years ago, you have to appreciate it for when its time came out, because things have evolved. There's been a lot of stuff done. So trying to see where things originally came from, you're looking at it in 2026 versus 1975 when it came out, it's a big difference. So it's one of those things where it can be tricky because you kind of have to put yourself back in those boots back in the day of when it actually came out for that. Because, yeah, things today are a lot different than they were back then, I feel like, when it comes to comedy, when it comes to horror, when it comes to drama, when it comes to martial arts, I feel like, because that's kind of where it all started from, even the horror genre stuff like you mentioned. So I think that has a big aspect to it too.
Absolutely. One of the classic examples I like to use when I tell people that are like, like if they watch an older film, like one of my favorites, Big Trouble in Little China.
Yes.
Like some of these older film styles that maybe the action isn't as highly intense as it is now or something like that. I'm like, look, you have to have in mindset, this isn't now. Cell phones weren't there, technology wasn't what it was, internet wasn't even around, and it's like, what are you thinking if you can't put your perspective in that? Like, how do you watch something modern like even Troy or something like that, where it's in ancient Greece, and if you think it's going to be like it is now, it's not. It's all a byproduct film wise of the time period. So I use this. I say Jaws. Jaws is an all-time great movie, and I stand by that. But if you actually talk to somebody who was old enough to see it in theaters when it originally came out, it scared the shit out of people. It was, in essence, at the time, a horror movie. And if you watch that now, you're like, what? Like, you would be caught off guard because people aren't scared by that. I mean, sharks are fucking scary, but they're also misunderstood most of the time, and I stand by that. We don't need to go into my animal advocacy at this moment, but the point is that was hugely scary, like monumentous, life-changing, and cinema scary. And the thing is, most people will watch that now and not be impressed as far as scary goes. And so that's because you've been desensitized with way more highly extreme versions of that, because it in a way, as a society, we film is like a drug, and you keep watching and keep adding this drug into your system. The only way to do it harder and better is to add a higher high, right? You gotta get a higher high. So you gotta keep getting this scare that's even more so dangerous and scarier and relevant, and it's harder and harder to do. But it's not limited to that genre. It's just an easy one to point out. Funny is harder to make funnier. You almost got to get more extreme, more grotesque.
And I think that's honestly, can I just jump in here for a second?
Yeah, sorry.
That's not just movies. I think that's all of media and pulp culture in general, because I think video games have changed like that. Pro wrestling has changed like that.
Yeah.
Movies and TV series have changed like that. So I think it's just like the culture in general has just kind of evolved with basically being bigger and more. But, again, it doesn't hurt to, go back and relive a little history too.
See, the amazing thing about that, though, is as people that grew up like you and I did in a time period where we experienced that, and so we can at least appreciate it maybe differently. Our experiences over time has adjusted to the new society terms. So yeah, if we watch something from back then, we are almost, even if we watched it back then, like, you can almost side with younger generations because it's no longer scary. Whereas if it's their first time seeing it, they probably won't find it scary either because they've already been desensitized with other material up until this point. So it's not just somebody that's gone through life in phases, it's other things that they're exposed to, and that's just living life nowadays, and it's just different. So I think that element with this, I do appreciate it. I know what they've done for comedy. I've known what they have just done in production and putting material out there, and it is entertaining. It's just the level of entertainment is much lower than I expected to really enjoy. It could be a sign that I'm just fucking getting old, Brian. It could be something that, like, time period, like I said, well, oh yes. I could just be, had I seen this in my teenage years, so at this point, this movie would have been at least, 20 years old versus almost 50, I think it might have resonated potentially a little differently with me, because if I remember my teenage years, the dumber the better. Not much has changed in a sense, but yeah. So as far as the connection thing, there's some there, but honestly, it's not really, it's not really expected, I think, for most people at this age.
Yeah, and we're still talking emotional connection, rewatchability for this, right? So, as far as some of the things to kind of add here, Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 92% approval rating. Consensus saying a cult classic. Classic.
All right,
a gut-bustingly hilarious.
Daffy Duck.
It's blithely ridiculous. Monty Python and the Holy Grail has lost none of its exceedingly silly charm. Charles Champlin of the Los Angeles Times said it was positive, writing that it's like Mad Comics. If for those of you who remember Mad Comics, it is not certain to please every taste, but its useful exuberance and rousing zaniness are hard not to like. As a matter of fact, the sense of fun is dangerously contagious, which I would definitely.
Why are you attacking the mic right now?
I don't know. Penelope Gillians of New Yorker called the film often recklessly funny and sometimes a matter of comic genius. Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune gave this film 2.5 stars, writing that he felt it contained about 10 very funny moments and about 70 minutes of silence. Too many jokes took too long to set up, a trait shared by both Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein, for you OGs out there. I guess I prefer Monty Python in chunks in its original television review format, because I guess
it was a TV show.
It was adapted to a television format, which Monty Python did not like. That they took out a lot of the blood from that as well too. So I already kind of talked about the ending earlier, as far as the ending going to the black screen and the alternate ending. But that's kind of all I had as far as visuals and special effects.
All right, you want to go ahead and, the emotional connectivity and all that, you want to go ahead and rate this bad boy?
Yeah, I'm going to go slightly positive.
I'm going down, and slightly down at least. Just, it's not there for me. It misses kind of as far as that goes. So overall rating, if you're going to take a collective group in this is just kind of young days of British satire comedy. And it is exactly what you get. You're getting a group of guys that kind of are forefathers with a lot of the comedy that we know now. And if as long as you can appreciate something like this, I don't think you're really going to be overly disappointed. With that said, I guess doesn't mean you're going to love it. Just doesn't mean you're going to be overly disappointed. Is what I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely the older generation will appreciate it more than a newer generation. But if you're just wanting something to put on in the background or just have a fun time at the stupidity or funness of the movie, then I think that's all that is pretty much geared for, because that's, really what they were aiming for.
Yeah, so I'm glad I've watched it, and I'm glad I've watched in its entirety. I will say it did took me 3 different sessions to watch it, because I was watching it. I think, as I alluded to, it does get a little dry, and so it's a little dull-ish. Even if the content is, funny, it's not actively kind of that. And so I was also watching it when it was like towards the end of my night. So I won't say it's its entire fault, but it did play a role in why I had to watch it in a couple chunks as far as that goes. But it's just. I don't think I'll need to watch it ever again. But I would, like I said, be interested in other movies and stuff they did.
I mean, I think my nephew might like the movie.
I don't know. I think he might like. This is one of the few times I find myself almost weirdly, probably in connection with Ebert there that you meant, or Cisco. I almost said Cisco. I think it's. There's definitely some really actively funny parts, but I felt like it was, more valleys than peaks for sure, and just kind of just seeing through it, and it just is what it is. I still, it's like, you ever met somebody that you like, or like a band, what they represent, and then you like listen to their material and you're like, oh, this isn't that good, but I like you for you. Like, it's almost like something like that. I don't know.
Good character, but your music sucks.
Yeah, kind of. I know that sounds terrible, but that's basically what it is. It's like, I like them, I like what they represent, and I do like somewhat what they do. It's just I don't love it. It's maybe it's
a band off the top of your head, Kev.
No, I can't. Like, there's bands I want to like more than what I do, because I'm like, they're cool. They have some things that they represent, but no, nothing like, it is what it is. So that's all I got.
That's all I got.
Ready to rate it?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I'm slightly positive.
Slightly positive. That's the best I can do. So glad I seen it, but I don't think I'll ever watch it again.
Well, on that note, I'm going to get out of this ridiculous outfit.
Why? Sir Brian of Alot.
Thank you so much for tuning into the episode. Hopefully you've enjoyed our shenanigans as always.
Yeah, we are out on Tuesdays, Apple Podcast and Spotify, so you can listen to us. And then Thursdays, we're out on the tube of views, as I like to say. And it's entertaining. And, man, you would not do... Could you ride the horse like that? Would you like doing that? With some armor on? That shit was heavy, too. But, yeah, go ahead and listen to us. Shout anything out at us, literally and figuratively. Any sort of comments. If you see Brian's dumb outfit, let him know. Although, hey, they did more effort than I fucking did. I'll give him props on that.
I was considering you wearing the outfit, but
I mean, I could have. Should have gave me the sword. I would have done the drive-by killing with the sword, which is kind of a funny concept. But anyways, all right. Well, thanks for listening.
Good journey, y'all.
We'll catch you later.
Ma.
Peace.